processing triggers. I'm processing a trigger right now. And the only thing that I'm grateful for is the ability to be able to do it by myself and on my own. It's taken a long time to get here. It's possible. So for the person who's wondering, can you process a trigger? Can you ever get yourself to the place where you can self-regulate and process triggers? The answer is yes. And it takes practice. You have to recognize what the trigger is, recognize the stem of the trigger, the root of the trigger, the situations in the past that come to surface in the present moment situations, how you feel, the way that you talk to yourself. Have you moved from I am to I feel, as well as I'm experiencing? So we don't personalize, meaning like in the past I would have said, I am fill in the blank, and now it's I feel hurt. And with this particular trigger, it is the trigger of being tricked. So I wrote it down because I want to make sure that it makes sense for you guys. So I want you to be able to do this too. So instead of saying, I am upset, my mindset is, and my thoughts are, I feel upset. I feel upset because my daughter is away from me, because I hurt. I hurt about what happened, and I hurt because there's no resolve. So I'm able to articulate, why am I hurting? What is the situational hurt around? Because I sit and I wait, and that waiting reminds me of empty promises. That statement for me about waiting, and that waiting and waiting and waiting without communication, without, it could be maybe somebody did something, they said they were going to show up, and maybe plans changed, but there wasn't any communication. Those situations can bring the same feelings. The waiting, though, the waiting and the waiting and the waiting and the waiting reminds me of empty promises. See, when I was a kid, people would tell me things. They would make promises, and those would never happen. I can think of many, many examples right now of where they were deliberately and intentionally said just to get me to behave in a certain way, or to get me to do something for them. But the intention was never to follow through. Never to follow through on the promise. And empty promises can be triggering because people don't follow through, and that manipulation of what they say they're going to do, they don't make good on it. They just make the promise, and it becomes a dangled carrot. It becomes a way of manipulation and control, like I mentioned before. So you wait, and you wait, and you wait, and you wait. And then what happens is then, in my experience, is that the people who made the promises, then they had gotten together and openly laughed at me as a kid. It actually happened when I was in my 30s too, with my biological family. And they would say, the joke's on you, Deborah. Or at that time it would be the joke's on you, Debbie. And then I would know that I was tricked. And then I would feel stupid, and I would tell myself that I wasn't smart, that I was stupid, that I fell for it again. And I waited. When I was in my 30s, I had a friend of mine, she's no longer a friend, said, I can't believe you fell for this again. She was observing something with me and my biological mother. And what I said was to her is I said, it's because I have hope. I have hope that things will be different. And she said, how many times are you going to get played? And it was because I still had hope. I still had hope that things would become healthy in the family, and that people would do their work. And then I came to the realization that people were not going to do their work. And so I lost hope. And I set different boundaries and started caring for myself. And then eventually went no contact. With my daughter, I feel extreme pain because of this waiting game. And the person who she's with right now did horrible things of the same nature for over 10 years. This dangling of the carrot, right? That control, manipulation, the empty promises. And I've been asking myself the question, why have I been upset? Why have I felt these feelings the last couple days? And then something else happened today, and I said to myself, you're experiencing feelings and emotions and you can't label them. You can't name them yet. So I took some time and I've got the game on. And baseball is so good for my mental health. It just gets me to relax and enjoy, even though I have so much tension right now in my body. I'm able to articulate what I'm feeling. And the trigger is the dangling of the carrot and the waiting. And the waiting and the waiting and the waiting and the waiting. And all it takes sometimes is just to say, I can't make it. Or to say, it's not going to happen. And in this situation, I've been waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. And it's so hard because I'm appreciative of the trigger. I'm appreciative that I'm able to process it. I'm appreciative that I am at this place right now with my trauma healing. And I'm also appreciative of how I can differentiate that I'm not that child, I'm not that kid. I don't know what's going to happen in this situation. You know, I can't futurize things. They do have a tendency to be like that other person, and they're going to be learning from that person since they're in that environment. And we learn from our environment. For me, though, right now, and for sharing this with you, is there is a way that you can process. And before grabbing this phone, I said to myself, oh my God, I'm so accountable to myself and to you guys. And sometimes I wish I wasn't, because it's not easy to do these videos. Especially, I mean, I've been sitting around all day and just chilling out. But yeah, always do the work, you guys. As hard as it is, the blessing with this is right now is the deeper and the deeper level of awareness. So the next time this happens, I'm in this situation again, I can name it, I can label it, I can identify what it is, I can articulate what it is. I'm also aware of how my body is tense and how my body's reacting. And at the same time, I want to let you know my hands are dry. And for me, that's huge. So I know the levels of healing and the levels of growth. And one of these days, this particular trigger, because my hands are dry, is no longer going to get me to cry. I won't have that emotional response. See, logic doesn't help us with emotions. We have to get ourselves to a calm state in order for our brains to process information. So before you can get yourself to the point of naming it and labeling it and processing it like I did just now and writing it out on paper or articulating it, you have to address your feelings and your emotional state of mind and your emotions. And when you can do that, you can self-regulate and you can move forward on processing. So while I did this, and it took less than 10 minutes, I'm again proud of myself. Because there was a time, you guys, where processing triggers would take hours to do. And the time before that, the longest that I was ever unable to process was 2 weeks. So I've moved from 2 weeks to a few hours to less than 10 minutes. And I think that's pretty gosh darn cool. And the other thing is, as hard as it is for me to grab the phone, I keep my promises. So there's another layer of being a cycle breaker and a legacy builder. So if you've gotten to the video to this point, I want to thank you, because it means also that you're committed to helping yourself and others. And I do hope that this video has helped somebody out there. I know that making it has helped me. And situations feel the same, but it doesn't mean that they're always going to be the same. That's the other deeper level of awareness. I might be Dr. Deb, but I'm always Deb. So you guys have a good night, and put some comments down there if this has helped you. Remember to check us out at ptsdandbeyond.org, and you guys make it a good one. And remember, there is growth after trauma, and there is a beyond, so let's all go beyond.